We returned to my grandfather's farm after the rainy season, only to find his rows of young sugarcane completely torn apart by wild boars. Fresh hoof prints stamped deep into the wet soil looked like a taunt. We couldn't allow the crops to be destroyed any further. So we set out armed with rifles, pickup trucks, and thermal cameras. Everyone knew deep down, tonight would be a relentless chase. We laid out our strategy. One team would hold position by the fence near the sugarcane, while another circled through the woods to cut them off. The infrared camera operator would relay updates non-stop. Once a signal came through, the formation would tighten and the target would be locked in. One by one, we slipped into the darkness, silently taking our pre-assigned spots. As darkness fell and the ground still steamed with lingering moisture, we lay in wait by the fence that bordered my grandfather's fields. The night was both a challenge and a test of every hunter's nerve. Through the thermal scope, two shadows appeared. Boom! The first went down instantly by the fence. The other bolted in panic, the opening shot of a long and brutal night. One boar managed to escape the opening volley. I quickly tracked its trail and found it with its head buried in the crops. In the dead silence, without hesitation, I pulled the trigger, bang. It dropped instantly. Night hunts demand absolute caution. A single careless second could cost an entire harvest. The night grew colder. A call came in from the thermal camera team. Wild boars had appeared in the nearby forest. We moved swiftly to intercept. There it was. The next target shuffled into view. I raised my rifle, holding my breath, waiting for it to step clear. The moment the gap opened, crack, the bullet struck true, and the boar collapsed motionless. The silence of the forest sealed itself again, broken only by the acrid scent of gunpowder. What did you think of that takedown? After dropping a few more raiders, each shot was like a strike to restore balance. We left the woods and advanced onto the open fields, prime feeding grounds at this hour. Across the wide meadow, a lone boar strayed from its herd, grazing carelessly. I locked the scope, steadying my breath, then squeezed the trigger. Boom! The boar crumpled instantly. Another darted past my sights, and I seized the chance for back-to-back kills. Gunfire rattled through the night, sending the herd scattering in chaos. Quick reflexes and seizing every opportunity. These are the skills that define a true hunter. Soon after, we came across another herd feasting recklessly. My rifle fixed on the lead boar, blam. As it fell, I swung and fired at the dark figures fleeing across the field. Shots echoed one after another, and bodies dropped in succession. Can you count how many went down in just those few seconds? Drop your guesses in the comments. It was past midnight now. In the stillness, each gunshot wasn't just sound, it was a drumbeat of order being restored. We weren't afraid of danger, only of seeing the worry in farmers' eyes when their lifetime's work was threatened by these beasts. On the way back to the truck, just as everyone thought the hunt was over, instinct kicked in, I spotted another boar hiding in the brush. Alarmed, it lunged forward, but my finger was faster. 3 sharp shots rang out. Clean, precise. The night hunt was over. We packed our weapons and cameras into the Toyota Land Cruiser and headed home. When dawn broke, the crops were still standing because the peace of a night had been bought with sweat, grit, and unwavering shots.
Late at night, cold winds blew through the deserted fields outside the town, bringing with them a cold and wild feeling. Under the dim moonlight, Oliver and I picked up our bags, ready for a challenging wild boar hunt. We had hunted together at night many times, and they were all wonderful experiences. This trip required not only courage, but also vigilance and survival instinct. If you want to know what interesting things will happen, follow us now. Just as we were about to set off, a bold idea suddenly popped into my head. I wanted to use my own body to lure the wild boars closer. It sounded crazy. Oliver looked at me with a mixture of surprise and concern when I shared this idea. With the desire to conquer, I convinced my companion to carry out the plan. I sat quietly by the dense bushes, a loaded gun in my hand, my eyes tensely watching every movement. From a distance, the wild boars began to move, as if they had sense of a presence. Their dark skin was mottled with color, blending perfectly with the darkness. They moved towards in a herd, wariness unable to hide their curiosity. I could hear the growls coming from their throats, the characteristic sound of wild boars cautiously exploring their surroundings. A few minutes later, the wild boars appeared in front of me, very close, sharp fangs glinting in the moonlight, ready to tear apart anything that stood in their way. They stood there and looked at me, their small but bright eyes. My mind was struggling between two thoughts. Should I shoot immediately or let them come even closer? Then the wild boars faced the muzzle of my gun. Seizing the opportunity, I shot down the first one. The sound was as clean as the bullet cutting through the air. Immediately after, I adjusted my gun to fire a second shot, before the other wild boars could run away. Our risky game ended like that. The result was the first 2 wild boars lying at our feet. After a few tense moments, we decided to walk along the grasslands to find the wild boars. The quiet night, the sound of wild boars echoed. Wild boar with a distinctive spotted coat appeared. As the boar moved out of the bushes, its eyes were alert, and its speed was also relatively fast. Oliver started his mischievous prank again, calling the boar several times in a row. A strange sound suddenly rang out, attracting its attention. It stood still to observe, but that was also an opportunity for Oliver to shoot. A precise shot to the head finished off the wild boar. It struggled for a while and then lay still, so we had another great trophy. Immediately after that, we moved to a position next to a pond. There would definitely be wild boars coming here to drink water. This was also an ideal ambush location. As expected, a wild boar that had probably just finished drinking water was leisurely returning to the field. As it passed in front of me, I immediately opened fire to take it down. The fatal shot knocked the boar down. I had no chance to fire back. Tonight, we had a few trophies, all of them extremely large. However, Oliver said he wanted to stop by his family's cow farm nearby. That's why we appeared here, next to the cows. Not only that, mixed with the cows, we also discovered boars rummaging through leftovers. Boars, with their huge size, thick fur, and sharp eyes, didn't care much about our presence, even when I held a gun and stood right next to them. Until a soul discovered us, it seemed to have realized the danger. It continuously let out a warning growl, but it was too late. It had already entered my sights. As soon as it moved to an open space, I immediately opened fire and shot it down. This farm, wild boars were rummaging. We didn't say anything. Many people might mistake this for a herd of pigs raised on the farm. If you witness the terrible destruction when they plowed up the whole ground, you will understand why we had to hunt these pigs. In the midst of the wild boar noise, I spied another big fat boar. It was running fast across the grass, and it seemed to have sensed danger as well. As it ran back and forth in panic, I immediately took the opportunity to shoot. The headshot caused it to collapse and struggled with painful cries before it became completely still. Another big boar. It seemed that all the boars in the area were this color. The game wasn't over yet, as Oliver and I had some unexpected mischief. We placed a loudspeaker that emitted a high-pitched screech right at the location where the boar had been shot. Soon, the whole herd was attracted, and they quickly ran towards the screech. When the herd reached the top of the hill, they recognized the danger sign. Immediately, the herd turned around and ran away. Although the original plan didn't really work, I still managed to shoot and kill a boar when it stopped to observe. After midnight, we had to end the hunt because we had shot a lot of wild boars today. And of course, I will need some time to process these trophies. Thank you for following our journey. Please share your opinions in the comments. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. Shoot.
Ever since I was a kid, I've been captivated by terrifying tales of monstrous wild boars, fearsome beasts lurking in the shadows. But instead of being afraid, I felt driven. Driven to learn, train, and become a fearless hunter. Tonight, my team and I are diving deep into their territory, into the dark corners where these ferocious creatures roam. A tense showdown is about to unfold, and only the boldest will prevail. Wild boars are powerful animals, but at night, they become even more dangerous. Limited visibility gives them the edge, and their instincts to hunt, flee, or fight kick in with full force. Some people have been chased for hundreds of meters through thick forests. Others suffered serious injuries for underestimating their speed and aggression. In China alone, over 10 wild boar-related incidents occurred in just the last 2 months of 2024, resulting in 7 casualties. Aware of how brutal these night warriors can be, our hunting team set out early to reach a familiar forest, well prepared for tonight's mission. In the pitch-black darkness, we relied entirely on our scopes to track every move. It didn't take long before the first boar appeared. I fired quickly and took it down, our first successful hit of the night. Sweeping the scope to the left, we spotted another group of wild boars foraging silently in the distance. I picked one, isolated in the middle, and pulled the trigger. The heavy thud of its fall startled the rest, and they scattered. We kept adjusting and firing, determined to bring down more. We remained still in the open field, scanning patiently, until another herd approached. Their course first stood out starkly under the moonlight. They were massive, arched backs, stocky legs, and solid muscle. I took careful aim, and with a clean shot, dropped one right where it stood. The others bolted, but we managed to land a few more hits. Still, none of us were disappointed. Hunting is never an easy stroll, it's a relentless battle. As the night deepened, more and more boars appeared, bolder and more aggressive. But fatigue was setting in, so we made the call to head back. Yet on the way home, we couldn't help but stop. An overwhelming number of boars had taken over a freshly seeded field. Gunshots echoed through the night as boar after boar fell from well-placed shots. For us, seasoned in the war against wild boars, hunting isn't just about protecting crops, it's an unquenchable passion. Though the night's thrills still lingered in our minds, a new challenge awaited us the very next day. As usual, we gathered in the afternoon to prep before heading back for dinner, gearing up for the real action after dark. By around 10 p.m., we reached our ambush point. The bait had been set, and sure enough, the first boar came sniffing in. As it stepped into the kill zone, I squeezed the trigger, one shot, one kill. But that bait didn't just lure one, it attracted a whole herd. The biggest and strongest were always our priority. 2 well-aimed shots brought down 2 more. We paused to catch our breath before the next round of pursuit. After regrouping, we moved past a small garden near the edge of the field. Through the scope, we spotted another herd hiding behind thick foliage. We had to move closer, and when the moment was right, I opened fire. The booming gunshot sent the herd fleeing. One particularly large boar wasn't so lucky. Back at the same field, the boars had returned. I locked in on the alpha, by far the most destructive, and took aim. But our wild boar pursuit wasn't over yet. On the far side of the field, the herd had returned again, scavenging for leftover crops. There they were, boars streaming in from all directions. This was the moment we were waiting for. The entire team moved in for the takedown. During the day, wild boars tend to stay hidden or move slowly. But when darkness falls, they grow bold. If you're thinking of joining a night hunt, make sure you're equipped and prepared. A single misstep can turn the hunt into a nightmare. Did the thrill of the chase get your adrenaline pumping? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic hunts coming your way.
Wild boars, creatures once thought to lurk only in deep forests, have now invaded the plains, causing unimaginable damage. They not only destroy crops, but also leave villagers living in fear as night falls. Faced with this crisis, what will farmers and hunters do to reclaim peace? Join us in a heart-pounding pursuit where the line between man and beast is drawn by a single gunshot. First, join us as we step into the chilly night of rural America, where giant wild boars exploit the cover of darkness to ravage fields and livestock pens. Guns, thermal binoculars, infrared lights. Everything has been meticulously prepared for a heart-pounding hunt under the moonlight. We drove for about an hour to reach the hunting area. The silence was eerie and unsettling. From a distance, a herd of beasts was quietly tearing through a cornfield. I quickly raised my rifle, locked onto the target, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot shattered the night's silence. One boar was hit and collapsed to the ground. The rest scattered in panic, fleeing in all directions. Not missing the opportunity, we decided to track down the surviving boars. A target was spotted. Swiftly raising my rifle, I pulled the trigger. The sharp crack of the bullet echoed through the silent night. One beast collapsed, motionless on the cold grass. The night hunt concluded with victory for the season hunters. After a tense night, the first light of dawn dispelled the darkness. Seizing the moment, we swiftly moved up the mountain for a daytime hunt, where the prey roams actively under the radiant sunlight. Join us as we continue this thrilling pursuit of the beasts. Silently weaving through dense bushes, a dark shadow suddenly darted out in front of me. Reacting in a split second, I raised my rifle and fired. The blast echoed through the mountains and forest. The beast struck squarely in its midsection. It collapsed onto the dry ground, thrashing briefly before gradually losing its ability to resist. The gunshot shattered the silence, sending the surrounding wild boars into chaos. The frantic barking of hunting dogs signaled the presence of other prey. As expected, a group of wild boars was hiding, hoping to evade my rifle. Without hesitation, I swiftly raised my gun and locked on the target. A clean shot rang out, and the lead boar was hit, collapsing in the middle of the forest without making a sound. As we descended the mountain, we encountered stray boars from the herd busily foraging. Aiming from a distance, I fired a single shot at the target. It collapsed and lay still instantly. The remaining boar fled in panic, leaving behind an eerily silent scene. The daytime hunt concluded with the giant beast herd as they defeated. Today's journey of night and day hunting has come to a close. From the silent darkness to the radiant daylight, each moment brought its own challenges. But with seamless coordination and precise shots, we emerged victorious. Everything was conducted in legal areas and in compliance with regulations.